What's up, my beautiful people? Love you guys.
What's up, man?
You look very handsome. You always looking handsome. You're looking
I'm trying,
GQ.
man. I'm trying.
Dry January, all that nonsense.
Yeah, dude, it's working out nice. Feeling good, you know?
Austin already knows, but I got a special guest for you guys. So I was able to convince him to come on the show tonight and test his knowledge of Sports Jeopardy with both of you, or with all three of you guys, rather. Just waiting.
I'm very
for
nervous.
Jordan, you're gonna get a little heads up first, who it is, and over Jackson. But trust me, it'll be worth the wait.
Jesse, have
All right,
you?
gentlemen, stand by.
Yes,
The man, the myth, the
I knew
legend.
it.
that's
I knew
awesome.
Oh, Rishi, welcome
Wow.
to the show.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Rishi Barran, everybody.
Oh,
Let's go.
man. What a crew you got. What a crew.
Welcome to the Circus Catch. I'm always up for the challenge.
Are you kidding me? Guess who called that one?
I am dubbed the Houston player hater. I don't have time to believe.
You got butthurt.
What is he thinking?
Is he the greatest of all time?
It is like magic.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 5th episode of the 2nd season of the Circus Catch. I am your host, Jordan Wright. I am joined this morning by Jackson Cochran. Jackson, thank you for hopping on the show today.
Thank you, Jordan, for having me. It's always a pleasure to come back and be a member of the Circus Catch.
We'll be visited by Austin a little bit later in the show. I did want to let you guys know what went on in that intro right there. For those of you who don't know, that was our program director at Full Sail University for the sportscasting program, Rishi Barran. Sort of a legend of the sports world in my eyes, and a lot of our eyes as well. You name it, he's done it.
Starting off in the program, we just kept hearing about Rishi, kept hearing this name, Rishi. Who is Rishi? And jumping in on a couple of our not one-on-ones, but a couple of our Zoom sessions that Gus would put together. Rishi was always there, just messaging people. Anytime that Rishi would just come on screen, everybody's like, Rishi. They just loved him because he was right there in the beginning, right in the original state of the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. And he was the best person to have.
Yeah, no, even in our class, you know, we weren't too far behind the inaugural guys to do this. So we were kind of in that experimental phase too. And Rishi was nothing but fantastic to us throughout, and especially at the end. I kind of consider him our head coach, whereas we were the team, he was the head coach. But yeah, speaking of head coaches, a lot happened in the football world this week, both in college and in the pros, with head coaches retiring and moving on from places where they cemented their legacies. I want to start with Nick Saban, Jackson. Nick Saban, obviously longtime coach at Bama. Seems like he won the title every other year. Let's go ahead and give us your thoughts on what Nick Saban meant to college football in general, as well as Alabama.
When you think of college football, head coaches, you think of Bear Bryant. You could think of, obviously now, Nick Saban. And that's kind of your 1A, 1B. Saban has changed the college game by recruiting, by raising finances, and just actually building up a program where it was questionable, like, is Bama going to get back to the old Bama ways? And looking at what he has done, he's leaving his mark in college sports, and then also set a great foundation. One crazy stat about Nick Saban is he has had, at this moment, 49 first-round draft picks, because this class that's coming out, they're going to declare for the draft. That will still count towards him. But in his career coaching, Nick Saban has lost only 29 games. That is insane. You have more first-round draft picks than you do losses.
Let's take it from Coach Saban to one of his good friends, possibly the greatest coach of all time in the pro rankings, Mr. Bill Belichick of the New England Patriots. Looks like he's still going to get a head coaching job somewhere else in the league this year. But his legacy with the Pats is unmatched. 6 Super Bowl titles, most by a head coach of all time. Unprecedented. I don't know if it'll ever be duplicated again. I seriously doubt it in the Super Bowl era with so much parity now to build not just one, but two Patriots dynasties in that time. Of course, two of them had to be to my Rams, so I have a little bit of disdain deep down in my heart for him, but I have all the respect in the world in every other ounce of my heart for him as well. All right, Jackson, before we talk about the games that are upcoming on Saturday, let's talk about how a couple of these teams got there. Go ahead and give us your take on the Browns-Texans game. If you could give us just one word and then expand on that, what would you say about that game?
Him. CJ Stroud is him. This rookie is playing like a seasoned veteran. That's it. That's all I have to say.
My word is very, very similar. My word to describe this game, arrival. CJ Stroud is at this moment a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He is him, spelled H7M, him. The other game that I want to talk to you about, the Packers-Cowboys. The one word that I have to describe that game, typical. Cowboys choking in the playoffs. How typical. We got to start looking at this team not as America's team. That was back in the 90s. That was so long ago. The Cowboys are now the most miserable franchise in the NFL. We got to start putting them in the same breath as, and I apologize to fans of these teams, as the Atlanta Falcons or the Jacksonville Jaguars, or up until last year, the Detroit Lions, which obviously that doesn't apply anymore. Let's put the Chicago Bears there instead of the Lions. The New York Jets. This is the territory where the Cowboys need to be. Not with teams who are perennially in the playoffs, not up there with the Chiefs, not up there with the 49ers. No, Cowboys don't belong in that sentence.
Well, Jordan, my one word, embarrassing. That was an embarrassing display at home, getting blown out. That's all you have to say. It's an embarrassment to the franchise, to the fans. It wasn't even a good football game. It was one of those games that you were just disgusted watching. It's like, well, here we go, another blowout.
Let's go ahead and talk about this Saturday's matchups, the ones that are against the teams that got the 1 seed. We'll start with you, and we'll start with your team, the Houston Texans. They have a challenge. They are going to Baltimore to play the Ravens. Talk about this game.
It's going to be a lot colder than it was the first week of the season whenever the Texans did go into Baltimore. They did lose. Obviously, they did not take the reins off of CJ Stroud in that game. They did hold their own in the beginning against the Ravens, but obviously in the second half, it just was all Ravens. And the Ravens, they are getting Mark Andrews back. He's been participating in practice. He was lifted off IR. So you know that Lamar Jackson has one of his favorite targets back in the middle of the field. It's a nice big target, which the Texans have trouble defending against the tight end. So that is one way that the Ravens can just continue to feast on the Texans defense. Having the Texans actually play the Ravens is fitting because they're kind of playing with house money. They're on this run, this historical run for a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback that they're playing with no fear. And backs against the wall, people thinking that they're not going to get any further. That's what happened last week. People thought that the Texans were going to get trounced by the Browns. Roles were reversed. So having that type of swagger going into this matchup, I want to ride with the Cinderella story, and I'm going to ride with my Houston Texans.
Man, is that a hot take? Holy
It's not
cow.
a hot take. It's not a hot take.
It
I'm
is
just
a hot
riding.
take.
It's not a hot take. I'm riding with my heart. My heart song is singing, and it wants the Texans to win, knowing that they could lose in Baltimore. It's not a take. It's not a take.
I can't fault you too much for that, though, because I had a super fire hot take last week picking Green Bay over Dallas, and it ended up happening. It's not like the Texans don't have a chance, and it's not like they're the worst team coming into this divisional round weekend. In fact, they're playing extremely well right now. CJ Stroud, like I said, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now, but it's who they're playing which is why I'm not taking Houston in this one. The Ravens have Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was worth every single penny, had one of the best seasons that a quarterback has ever had, despite not throwing a lot. He just gets it done in a multitude of ways, and he can take on any team. The only teams that ever have success against him are the ones that see him all the time. The Texans don't see him all the time. They did see him this year, but I think that lack of familiarity with such a young team, I think it's going to take them a while to figure him out. I think that the Ravens, because they got rested, because they have Mark Andrews back, they now have a tight end duo, by the way. Isaiah Likely is such a good tight end as well. He's top, I wouldn't say top 15, maybe top 20 in the league. And you got two of those on your team. That's crazy. You got weapons on the outside now. The running back situation leaves something to be desired, but that defense is great too. The Texans are a great story, and they whooped on the Cleveland Browns last week, and kudos to them for doing so. That being said, I think the Ravens are going to take this one 28-17. Well, the next game happening on Saturday is happening on the opposite side of the country. It's happening here in California. It's happening just a few hours away from where I'm at right now. It is another Cinderella story, the Green Bay Packers, with another quarterback who has surprised a lot of people, another young guy, Jordan Love, going against the number 1 seed San Francisco 49ers. I love what the Packers did last week. I love that I got that pick right. I look at this San Francisco team. My only concern, literally my only concern, was Christian McCaffrey. He's been a full participant at practice. That was my only concern. The Niners dominate the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. Jordan Love, again, he impressed me last week. And he impressed a lot of people. So this team no longer can fly under the radar. They've put a target on their back. People are looking at them. This is not going to be a trap game. Shanahan doesn't fall into trap games. I think that the 49ers handle this mightily. I think that the 49ers take this one 35-14.
Very nice. Very nice. Yes, you are right. Christian McCaffrey has been a full participant. And one of the funny sound bites that I heard this week, especially from Kyle Shanahan, was saying, oh, yeah, we started preparing for Green Bay after the second quarter. Savage. The 49ers, obviously, they're the 1 seed. They had didn't they lose 3 in a row earlier in the season, but they found their footing. They got back on track. And this offense just ran through Christian McCaffrey, sprinkled in with some Debo, little dabs of George Kittle, and you still have a stellar defense with Bosa, now Chase Young. I'm also sticking with the 49ers in this one. I think this is the 1 seed that is going to make it to the NFC Championship. And I'm going to be more generous. I'm going to say it's going to be more of a closer game than you. I will say it's going to be 24-28.
You and I are leading the way of the 4 of us. You and I are both 4-2. Jesse's 3-3. Poor Austin, who's coming on in just a second. He is 2-4. All right, Jackson, thank you for joining us on the first half of the show. We'll see how this weekend goes for us, and we'll see where we land in the standings after this.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan.
All right, man. Take care.
You too.
We've made it to the second half of this week's episode, and now joining us from Montana, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Austin Parr. Austin, welcome into the show.
Always good to be back, man. Love this show. Love all you guys. So thanks for having me again.
We have a special guest with us today. Who is hanging out back there with you?
That's little Kobe man. Kobe Bean Parr. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy.
He looks always. He looks nice and warm.
Got to have a sweater on. It's not as cold as it was last weekend, but it is 1 degree outside currently.
Oh my gosh. I need to be more thankful for the weather where I'm at. It's raining, and I feel like I want to complain about that, but I shouldn't.
It's not 25 below zero, so.
No, it's not. Some of these games this weekend were extremely cold, and it was a fun weekend full of wild card action. Before we get into our slate of games, though, let's talk about what happened throughout the week last week. Black Monday turned into Black Tuesday, Black Wednesday, and apparently it's still going on. There are currently, as of the moment we are recording right now, 7 head coaching vacancies. That's not even counting the potential of the Cowboys or the Eagles. Austin, what are your
Or
thoughts
even
on
Pittsburgh.
these?
Who knows?
Pittsburgh as well is now being talked about as a potential head coaching location. With the walking out of Mike Tomlin. Let's actually talk about that first.
I didn't think the question was bad. I mean, as a reporter, we are asked to ask the hard, tough questions. And I think she was just trying to get an answer out of him, with 1 year left on your contract. Have you thought about whether you wanted to extend the contract or do you want to move somewhere else with so many, head coaching vacancies? And he just walked out of the press conference. I don't think that's a good look on the Steelers. I don't think upper management is going to like that look. I don't think he had a right to walk out on a reporter like that. You should always answer the questions. I mean, that's their job, is to inquire and get these answers. So you should always answer the questions. I don't think he's leaving, but just wasn't a good look for the Steelers. That's for sure.
Let's talk about some of these head coaching vacancies. Austin, I want you to put yourself in the position of a potential head coaching hire. Let's say you had your pick of any of these 7 teams. We'll exclude the teams that don't officially haven't officially let go of their head coach. Which job are you taking if you had your choice?
Oh man.
Can I say which one I'm not taking?
Yeah, absolutely. I know which one I'm not taking either.
I'm not taking Carolina to save my life.
No, thank you. Not taking Carolina. I'm also not taking Washington either. That just seems
Really
like a messy situation. They got new management, obviously, got new ownership. It doesn't look like they're going to be, in my eyes, a head coach away from competing, especially in that division anytime soon, as far as, the other teams in that division might be a head coach away. So those are the 2 jobs I probably wouldn't take. I would say the top most attractive jobs would be the Chargers or the Falcons in my eyes, because Justin Herbert obviously is a generational type talent at quarterback. I do think he's really, really talented. And I do think a head coach who can develop a quarterback such as a Harbaugh or someone like that could really turn that organization around and make the Chargers immediately a contender in the AFC. I mean, it seems like every single year they're in these tight games and they just can't get over the hump. They spent a lot of money on defense last year and the offense really just didn't perform. So they could be a head coach away. I think that would be an enticing job if I was a head coaching hire. And then Atlanta Falcons. I mean, with the right head coach who utilizes those pieces, grows the positions, and then obviously brings in a quarterback from either with a trade or a late draft pick, develops a quarterback in that system or whatever system they bring in, the Atlanta Falcons could be a really enticing job for a new head coach.
Before I start agreeing with you, I'm going to disagree with you on one thing. I think the Washington job is pretty attractive. You do have the 2nd overall pick. Outside of Caleb Williams, you pretty much have your choice of which quarterback you want going forward, whether it's Drake May, whether it's Penix, or one of these other guys who's a little bit further down the list even. But to agree to your point, I don't think it's the most attractive job. I think both of those teams, the Chargers and the Falcons, way more attractive, right? For the reasons that you stated. Chargers have a killer defense, should have made the playoffs, no excuse not to. Maybe not win the division, but they should have at least made the playoffs. And then you got, like you said, Justin Herbert at quarterback, one of these generational talents, or at least we feel like he is. That's a job I would take if I was Jim Harbaugh and I wanted to leave Michigan. I would go straight to the Chargers. And if I had my pick of any of these teams, Chargers are who I'm taking. And you can't beat LA. Austin, recapping wild card weekend with you. Let's take a look at some of these games. Let's first look at the Rams-Lions game. How would you describe that one?
Ooh, we're going to put this all into one word and call it one word, but we're going to put long time coming for Detroit. It's been over 3 decades since they've won a playoff game. So excited for them. Jared Goff gets it done with Matthew Stafford coming back into Detroit. What a time it is to be Lions fans. Yeah, moving on to the next week. That's pretty much it.
My word for this game, poetic. It's poetic, right? 32 years, like you said, since they won a playoff game. The halfway point between their last playoff win and this playoff win was the 0-16 season. So I think it's overall just poetic. Obviously, Goff getting his revenge on his former team. Although in the post-game presser or even in the post-game interview, he showed a lot of class. He said, this is about my team now. This is about the Lions. This is about this organization, this city, and what we have to show going forward. So I appreciate that from Goff. Let's look at Eagles Bucks. My recap on this one, my one word for this one, Austin, disgusting. This is a horrible way for Jason Kelce to go out. He is one of 5 All-Pro centers to be named All-Pro 6 times. The other 4 are all Hall of Famers. So no doubt this guy is going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I feel so badly for him and just disgusting overall for how the team collapsed at the end.
Completely agree. I mean, I wasn't even going to look at that point until I remembered last night he was in tears. A terrible way for him to go out. My one word would be disappointment, obviously, because that locker room, clearly there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. That's not very good. Obviously, AJ Brown didn't play, but that was a very gigantic disappointment to lose on the road to a team in the Tampa Bay Bucks that, no offense to Baker and them, they're not very good. Like we said earlier, the Eagles secondary is awful. They might have a new head coach coming soon. A lot of things to fix in Philly. Disappointment.
All right, Dolphins Chiefs. The big snow game on Saturday. What'd you think about that one?
Freezing is going to be my one word to use for that one. It's not a surprise that Kansas City won that game. Dolphins don't swim in frozen waters. It never works out that way. Tua does not play well in the cold. I'm not to say that he can't play well in the cold, but he hasn't. They were super banged up, them being the Miami Dolphins. No surprise that the Chiefs got it done in the freezing cold weather.
My word for this one, classic. Chiefs get it done in January. Stop me if you've heard this before. Andy Reid with the mustache. That's an all-time great shot of the freezing icicles coming off of there. The dancing that Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes and Mama Kelsey are all doing. Is a great classic game in Chiefs history. And Mahomes and Kelsey and the boys, they all find a way to get it done. Dolphins, I'm sorry, I don't really think you stood a chance. Chiefs are showing that they are still the Kings. Last game I want to talk about with you real quick before we move on to the divisional round, Steelers-Bills. My word for this one is wild. Josh Allen is a beast. In case anybody forgot, Josh Allen is a beast. And the way that he can move the ball to the end zone by himself or throwing it or running it, doing it in a slew of different ways, he's a true Wild West gunslinger. Central Valley kid, grew up here in the Central Valley and up in Firebaugh, went to Reedley College before he went to Wyoming. Dude's a beast and he's just wild. That's the one word that comes to mind anytime I think about him.
Yeah, especially, 52-yard touchdown. That's the second longest rushing touchdown by a quarterback in a postseason game. I don't really have a crazy descriptive word for this one. I'm just going to say expected. I don't think anybody expected the Steelers to even be in that game. The Bills were supposed to win that game, whether it was cold, windy, snowy, it didn't matter. Mason Rudolph playing quarterback. Yeah, they came back. They scored 17 points. They had a lot of opportunities, but it was expected that the Buffalo Bills were going to move on, setting up a massive, massive game next week against, guess who? Kansas City.
Okay, Austin, let's talk about that game then. Kansas City at Buffalo. An all-timer, a classic, Mahomes, Allen. We've gotten this matchup before in the playoffs. This is going to be the third meeting head-to-head. Let's dive into this one. It's going to be in Buffalo this time. This is something we're not used to seeing. A true road game for Patrick Mahomes. All of his playoff games to this point, believe it or not, in his playoff career, other than the Super Bowls, have been in Arrowhead. So we're going to see him have to go to a hostile environment in Buffalo. Josh Allen does hold the regular season head-to-head record against Patrick Mahomes, 3-1. But Mahomes has never lost to Josh Allen in the playoffs. This game, and this might come as a shock to you, but I'm still going with the Chiefs in this one. The Chiefs, like I said, they're the Kings until they're not the Kings, right? They've been in these big games and know how to get it done. The Bills have been in these big games and have not moved on from them. It seems like when the moment is big, there's an element there where things aren't working. Sometimes the coaching decisions are a little bit suspect. And his big playability, while it helped him get a win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, it may be his undoing against a better team like the Kansas City Chiefs. So, my opinion, Mahomes is still the king until he isn't. Final score in this one is going to be cold, going to be freezing. I feel like it's going to be somewhat low scoring. Let's go 21-17 Kansas City.
I like that. I mean, I agree with a lot of your points there. The Chiefs are the kings in the AFC until they're not. And I think this is the week that they are not. This is going to be a hard reset for Kansas City. This is kind of the point where it's like, okay, yeah, we've been the champions. We've been so good for so many years, but now's where we got to reset. They have not been good in the back half of the season. The beginning of the season, their receivers are dropping balls. I mean, we talked about that all year long. I think their receivers will continue to cost them inside of Buffalo. They've never been inside of a hostile environment, let alone Bills Mafia on the road in a playoff game. That is going to be very intense, very loud for them. If you think they had problems dropping balls in Kansas City, they're going to drop some balls in a very cold and possibly wet Buffalo. I think Josh Allen, this is his opportunity. This is your best chance to go to the AFC Championship game. You're at home. You're supposed to win this game. This is your big shot to knock off Patrick Mahomes and go to the next round. Stephon Diggs, love him. Dalton Kincaid, also Dawson Knox back. 2 tight ends scoring a touchdown in the first quarter. First time it's ever happened in a playoff game. I just think their offense looks a lot better than the Chiefs' offense right now. And I do like the defensive line of the Bills over the Kansas City offensive line, their ability to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes and make him have to make difficult throws. So I like the Bills in this one. We thought it was going to be low scoring this weekend against the Steelers and the Bills. I'm going to go 31-27. Bills get the victory.
All right, and the other matchup on Sunday, Tampa Bay at Detroit. I'll go ahead and let you start out with this one.
Yeah, Detroit looks really good. Their defense has some things to improve on, obviously. They did improve in the second half, but against the Rams. Baker Mayfield goes on the road inside of Detroit. I think he has a really tough time against that defensive line. Aiden Hutchinson of the Detroit Lions. Last night, he struggled with the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line. They got a lot of pressure on him. I don't think they'll be successful on the road in Detroit. Will it be competitive? Will they be able to score? I think so. I don't think the Lions defense is that great. I do think the Lions do win. Jared Goff feeds Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta, Montgomery as well. I think the Lions move on. 34-24. Lions get the victory.
I like this matchup a lot for Detroit. Look, it's going to be a decent game. We got 2 former number 1 quarterbacks. I like the story of this one. They've both been spurned by their former teams, and now they led a different team to their respective division championships and won their wild card game at home. Both of them lit up the scoreboard, especially Jared Goff early in that game against the Rams, Baker the entire time against the Philadelphia Eagles. The difference in this game for me, other than it being in Detroit, is that the Lions have proved that they don't waver in big moments. The Bucs have been known to do that this year, and they have been shaky. While they had a very impressive win against the Philadelphia team last week, the week before, to Jackson's point, only scored 9 points against the worst team in the league, the Carolina Panthers. So for that reason, I'm pretty confidently taking the Lions in this one over the Bucs. I'm going to say 28-20.
Well, it was an honor, and geez, to go against you guys, I mean, like that means a lot because you guys, I'll just be honest with you, you're up there with the greatest of all. That GOAT category, that could have been you all as a class. So, all right, guys, well, I got to run, but thank you for having me a part of it. I really appreciate it, Jesse. Thanks again for extending, and you did a great job with it, and it was fun. And yeah, I'll definitely come back on again with you guys sometime. So
Thanks for jumping on, Rishi. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Rishi.
Thanks for
good to
taking me
see
back
all
to
of you.
school,
It was a nice.
Rishi.
Yeah, we got to do what we got to do. It was a nice surprise seeing all you guys in here because I didn't know you were all going to be here. So,
Yep.
all right, gentlemen, all good. Happy New Year.
We'll chat
Happy
soon.
New Year. Take care.
See ya.
Absolutely.
See you,
See ya.
Rishi.
Well, we've come to the end of the podcast. I am very thankful now, as we mentioned before, that I am not up where you are right now, Austin. Strictly due to the weather. I'm sure Montana's beautiful right now. But
It's really pretty, with the snow, but 30 below zero is no joke. Everybody saw Andy Reid's mustache freeze. When I take little Kobe out to the bathroom, my mustache freezes every single time, but it is pretty. You are right.
Yeah, send me pictures and I'll be thankful here in my 40-degree weather with the rain. So, all right. Well, from up in beautiful Montana down to beautiful is a strong word. Pleasant at times looking Central California. Sayonara, guys. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
And that's all she wrote.